Nordic Tales and American Trails is an outdoor and hunting podcast focusing on tales and trails from Northern Europe and the USA, hosted by Eric Rodin from Sweden and Adam Wu from Louisiana. The podcast covers all aspects of the outdoors, with a special emphasis of hunting with dogs. We will explore the unique tales and trails of our region, the various dog breeds used in hunting, and the differences in hunting practices between the USA and Northern Europe.
All right. We're back here. This is a new episode. This is episode 20, right, Eric?
Yeah, gonna be
Episode
episode 20.
So today we're joined by my friend Jonas. I've been talking to you for I don't know, man, maybe 4 years or so. It's been quite
Yeah,
some
you
time
reached
now.
out when you were thinking about getting an East Siberian Laikas, as I remember it.
Yeah, that's correct. I knew you because you have East Siberian Leica currently on and you hunt wild boar with them, and that's kind of the journey, as most people know who listen to this. This is the journey I've taken. And you were giving me advice back then. So how did you get started with the West Siberian Lycus? How did you get started, or really with your hunting journey in general?
Well, my hunting journey is long. I mean, I grew up in families, both sides actually, that quite avid hunters. So it was always around me, even as a kid. But I guess I didn't really get well. And when I was little, we hunted rats and seagulls and whatever, but it was more for the fun of it. And then it wasn't until I was like in my 20s that I really got into hunting big time. And I got my first dogs because I wasn't really into just sitting around and I wanted to do some more hunting. I wanted to get more invitations. And so I started out actually hunting driven. So the first dogs I had were, like German Spaniels, Terriers, those type of dogs. And then I got more heavily involved in an estate that had a large population of wild boar. And this was pretty much, I mean, we're talking early 2000s. And it was, if you go back to when I was a kid, what we hunted in Sweden was way different from what we hunt now. There was moose and there was roe deer, and that was pretty much it. If we're talking about, so the hunting style and the type of dogs we used and so on were different. So when I started hunting boar, we kind of had to figure it out by ourselves how to. I mean, there's always been boar hunting in Europe, but our hunting styles, as you probably gone through in your 20 episodes so far, it's kind of different. I mean, every region has their own culture. I think trying to find a way how you can hunt wild boar in Sweden with the type of dogs we had, that was something we had to figure out. And I did the driven, and then uh, there were a couple of instances where there were some bad shots, and we were trying to figure out, how to get the boar. And with the type of dogs, even though they were really good scent dogs, like it was hard to get the boar because they're really stubborn and they go into the pack and they keep on going. So I knew I needed something that was a bit um was going to bay and was going to be hard. And I wasn't really, I didn't know too much about the different breeds, so I wasn't really sure if I was going to get like a Karelian bear dog or a Laika or a Jämthund or whatever. But I just went back and through the years, I've ran into some really good ones, and luckily, when I was in search of a pup, um, it was a bloodline that I knew a little bit about. It happened to be an East Siberian Laika, and she just turned out to be a really good dog, and that's how I started. And then from there, I kind of drifted into bear hunting as well, because if you get a really good and brave dog, for boar, a lot of the time they work also for the bear.
Okay. Through your experiences, did you ever hunt with other dogs like Yamtuns or the other Spitz types through other people or anything to make you to kind of encourage your decision?
Yeah, I mean, I've hunted a lot, but it's not until you have your own, you get into the details that you can tell the differences. And I mean, it's also it's hard to tell a difference between the breeds, different bloodlines, and how much impact the dog handler has. So I think it wasn't until I got my first one. I probably did all the mistakes you can do. She still turned out okay, but I wasn't breed specific in the beginning. It just then happened to have a good dog, and then you kind of like you like what you have. A
Okay,
little bit like that. Yeah.
you probably know this a little bit better than me, Eric. But I guess around that time, everybody was kind of figuring out the same thing. So it wasn't like, hey, Laikas are superb wild boar dogs, right? It wasn't like a popular thing.
Yeah, I think in general back then, we were talking early like 2000s, right? So I was not even into hunting by that time almost. But like looking back and talking with other people, like as Jonas says, like we were trying to figure out what worked in Sweden. Like it was kind of similar. Like you could talk with German hunters or even Polish hunters back then as well, right? Even though it was a lot harder without social media. But yeah, I think back then people didn't really feel that the Swedish and Norwegian elk hound worked. I think these days, like you will definitely find good wild boar dogs within both Jämthund and Gråhund. But people started looking outside the box in a way. Now I think the first like East Siberian Laikas we got back in like 1980s, so like they were a breed that was around in Sweden. But back then, correct me if you have other information on this, Jonas, but like I feel like a lot of people were either trying to just hunt moose with them, or they were hunting capercaillies or black grouse or even some marten.
I guess the first one that I heard of was that they brought specifically for their trades was for bear.
Yeah.
There were some guys up in Jämtland who used them, and specifically because of how brave they are and how fierce they are compared to the gray ones we use for moose. Um, but I also think that back when you started getting the boar in Sweden, they started in the south, and if we generalize a little bit, the grounds or these states in south are much smaller than they are up north. Up north, you have use for a dog that can go out, 10 miles and bay for 24 hours. You don't really have the use for that, down south. So I think it's also a little bit the circumstances and the like always been, working closer to the handler, which I think was advantageous at that point as well. And I think also what happened was, as you were correctly pointing out, Eric, some people use the Laikas a little bit more like the breeds we already had, but that I think that is, that's a big topic in the conversation, and I know there's been some controversies around, should we try to make the Laikas more like the gray ones?
Yeah.
But
And that's something we're gonna not try to take you too off topics, but that's something I struggle with myself. Is that currently we talked about this in some previous episodes. We have 9 moose dog breeds right in Sweden, and we trial them on the same perimeter in their hunting trials.
yeah,
So for me, some of the East Siberian Laikas is basically Jämthund now, but with different fur colors.
mm.
Like
Yeah, that's
not
it. Yeah, if you steer them on the same, if you judge them on the same parameters, that's what you're getting.
Yeah.
Which could be fine, I guess, but I guess in my mind, for whatever that is worth, we brought them in for different purpose.
Yep.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah, that would seem like it would completely defeat the purpose of having a different breed. Like at that point, what would be the difference between a Jämthund and a Leica if it's doing virtually the same thing? Maybe just a little more fierce, a little more brave. But I guess when you say gearing them towards more like the gray dogs, it's as far as just taking off, going as far as it needs
Yep.
to go. That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, because how the trials are set up, right? For moose. Now, back then, when you started, were there even trials for wild boars back in 2000s?
well, they came around pretty much. I read the first set of rules that came out, and they've been adjusted a couple of times since. But
Yep.
they were just I don't know the exact year, but I remember when it happened.
Yeah, so basically on the moose, right, you need a baying on 90 minutes and then you push the game and then it's like re-baying for 30 minutes, push again and then for 30 minutes. And as Jonas says, like a benefit of the Lycas, which also like beneficial with the wild boar moving from south of Sweden, is like if you're hunting a property of 1,000, 2,000 acres, like you don't really need a dog to bay for 3, 4, 5 hours because you don't really have that far to walk. Like if you're hunting
Yeah.
up north, I mean, you can hunt 20,000 acres and you might have a 2 hour walk to get to the bay.
Mhm.
And obviously you don't want a dog to stop baying and start looking for you after an hour.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to your own preferences and how you hunt and what type of grounds you have available and what kind of games. So, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I like the field trials for a lot of reasons, and they, definitely increase the quality of the breeds. But you also have to, as a dog owner, ask yourself, what do I need? What are my needs? And I think one of the great things with the Lycas, in comparison to a lot of other dogs I had through the years, is you can really mold them yourself. So that's advantageous as well.
So do you just to follow up on that, do you feel like you can sort of encourage distance that they hunt at as well?
They're funny in a way that I feel that they hunt closer when you're at grounds where you have a denser population of game.
100%
You know,
agree.
even if I go north, I can definitely see, an increase in search. But also I had, from time to time I had friends take my dogs and go north, and then they actually they work like a gray dog. You just let them out and they're gone. Because then they don't have the same attachment to you as a handler. So then they go and hunt a little bit more by themselves.
That's interesting though, because my Lycas, if I send my older dogs with someone else, they're gonna hunt very, very close to that person for maybe the first 2, 3 days. And then they're gonna like
Mhm.
basically go to hunt the normal way they do with me. But
Okay.
you experience that you're like as if they're with an unknown person, they're like, well, I don't care about you, I'm gonna go out hunting. That's definitely interesting though.
I mean, I've seen it both in terms of terms of bait time and search, but also like there's been a couple of times when I've had some other people take them out and they call me in the middle of the night and said, we can't get it in. Can you go out? And I go out and I whistle and it comes directly, and they've been after it for like 8 hours and didn't give it, a care
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, that's interesting because Eric and I just talked about this last night, as a matter of fact. But with Kylo, one thing I've noticed, the more experience he's gotten, the better he's gotten, the closer he is, but he is actually far busier in hunting areas that are he's learning that wild boar like to stay in. Like he's checking more bedding areas, it seems to me. Before, when he was gung ho and young, he was just taking off and maybe blowing past wild boar for all I know, you know.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
with experience, it seems like he's dialed it back, and he does go out if he needs to, but he's way far less prone to passing up a wild boar in the area.
Yeah, I think they're definitely get smarter the more experience they have, obviously. This is actually the East Siberian Lake I have now. It's actually the first one that's getting old. And now I can see that's a little bit of problem because I've never seen her hunt as good as she does now, but she get hurt a little bit more because she is little bit slower, maybe in combination with being a little bit braver. I can't really tell why, but the hunting is the best I've seen, but she does get injured a little bit more, unfortunately.
Interesting, interesting. So to go back, do you still enjoy driven hunts, or since then, when you found your way, is the baying like the way you go? Is that your style of hunting?
Well, I guess when we started talking, and I was trying, I don't know if I was going to try to give you advice, but maybe some pointers from my experience. I think maybe, in reality, I haven't been as prudent myself because I started out, with driven hunts, and with the first like I had, I actually, at any opportunity I had, I'd let her go, especially if there was a lot of boar on the ground. But I still do it, but for various reasons, I actually enjoyed just hunting by myself more and more. Also because over the years that, I've become lazier as well. I don't enjoy getting up, in the middle of the night. Um, and, I try to, well, I increasingly like to have my own agenda for the day.
I can definitely understand that. I'm kind of gearing that way as well. But so what are all the dogs you currently have now? We know you have more than just your Leica. So what is everything in your, I guess, quote unquote kennel?
Well, my go-to dog is my old East Siberian, and I guess she's pushing 10 now. And I bred her myself, so I had her since, forever. Um, then I have a Finnish Spitz, which I got from Finland, which is not for capercaillie and grouse, but she was bred for moose and for raccoons and stuff like that. So I got her um, actually more for driven, which sounds odd and not something I will tell the Träskällarklubben.
And now Adam is like, what's that?
It's a special club. It's for
Yeah,
Nordic Spets and Finnish Pits. Yeah.
Tree dog club,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like the bird,
Don't underestimate me, Eric, bro.
the bird treeing club of the Norbotten Spitz and the Finnish Spitz.
I'm like 1% Swedish now, bro.
Well, they're special. I'm not gonna, they are what they are, and they're trying to do a good job, I'm sure. But if you look at that breed, it's not over time. It wasn't just purely a dog for for treeing. So the lines I have, they work fantastically. I probably shot more moose for her than I've done for my Lycas, because um, she's very gentle, and she makes the moose stop. And for the wild boar, she's really good because she's very agile. She's very, like, in the reeds. She's really good because she can run in, the little tunnels that the boar make.
Hmm.
I mean, she's a perfect. The only time it's a problem for her is when there's a lot of water. You can hear her, like, sometimes being more underwater than over water, it seems like. Um, the only problem with her, for if you hunt her alone, is at a base she'll probably have like 10 yards. You don't really know where the boar is. It can be anywhere within 10 yards, and if you're in the thickets or if you're in the reed, you're gonna have a hard time finding it. But for driven, she's actually one of the best dogs I ever had. Then, unfortunately, I couldn't keep breeding the East Siberian, so we talked about that yesterday, Eric. You probably were close to getting this pup. I got a West Siberian from a really good bloodline. I got her around Easter, so the jury's out on her capabilities. But we can talk a little bit about that. I definitely see that she's different from East Siberian. Um, that it's a new breed for me. And then I have a Dachshund just for roe deer and fallow deer. Um, and she lives part-time with me and part-time with my mom as a companion.
That's interesting because I just learned that you guys use dash hounds to hunt and
Yeah, yeah.
not just couch potatoes.
No. I mean, she's the funniest because she is a couch potato at home. But if I let her out and if I look the other way, she's gone.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like
Yeah.
to see dogs being used for what they were intended to be used for.
I guess they were really, in the beginning, I guess they were bred for going down holes, but
Yeah,
they actually work super good for roe deer. I don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah.
touched upon that on this show before, but we hunt roe deer with shotguns, and it's perfect for that type of hunt.
It's funny. We literally the first time we touched upon it was yesterday.
Yep.
Okay.
Aaron kind of talked to me a bit about it because I don't know if you know, but I have beagles still as well that I use on
Yeah.
rabbits. So
Yeah.
same
Yeah. That's the
principles
same.
really.
Yeah.
You know, so when it comes to the Finnish Spitz, do you feel like there's a difference in the capability of stopping a wild boar to a Leica or big game in that
They
manner?
don't. Yeah, they're way different. I mean, they don't. A Leica will stop a boar.
Yeah.
A Finnish Spitz won't stop a boar. it stops if it wants to stop, and then she will, then she will bark. And, that's more like a pointer type of hunting. And I think that's also one of the difference. I don't know how much you guys talked about that, but if you want to bay a moose quick, you have to be gentle. If you use a really fierce Leica, that moose is going to be, run for 10 miles before it stops. And then it's probably going to bay really well. Like sneaking up on a moose that is being bayed by a real fierce Leica is, in my opinion, a lot easier than sneaking up on one that bayed by a gray. But no, she won't stop. She won't stop a boar. She won't.
Okay.
But she will. But she will keep on. If it runs, she'll stay on the track. And when eventually they all stop at some point, either because they're tired or because they get to a place where they feel comfortable or safe. If that's in the reeds or in the thickets, but it happens eventually.
When you hunt in the reeds, do you feel that the smaller Finnish pits is like less likely to get injured?
I said to people, like, that's the best dog because it never gets injured. Like, it never gets injured. And then I had a litter, and I kept one, and she was completely nuts. Like the first times I let her out, she got injured, and she got injured real bad, and she never learned. So I actually gave her away. But this one has never been this one has never been injured. She keeps the distance, and she's very light and very agile. So, and I've shot a lot of boar, especially in the reeds.
Yeah, because reed hunting is something like I've only done it a very few times, and like on this side, like in the middle of Sweden, we really don't get those big areas of reeds that you can have on the east side.
Yeah.
So I don't really have that much experience in it, but like I feel that the smaller dog in those tunnels and all that should be very, very safe in a sense.
I guess it's yeah. I mean, the safety aspect is that they keep the distance and they run in the tunnels in comparison to the East Leica that gets all the reeds, especially like in the beginning of the season before you get the really good tunnels. Like they get all the reeds just right in their face. I'd say the problem with the smaller dog is if there's a lot of water. I mean,
Yep.
they're going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I'm like right there in the middle because I've been having two thoughts about that because my like is very tall, even for a West Siberian. He's 27 and a half inches at the shoulder. And that's been super beneficial in our swamps. But
Yeah.
we have an equal amount of thickets, and that's the only spots he troubles. I mean, he has trouble
Mhm.
in, those briar
Yeah.
thickets are rough on him. And the cur dogs kind of thrash through him almost like a boar. But also a lot of people will ask me, like I told Eric, man, you for South Louisiana, your woods are kind of open because they'll see
Mhm.
some of the videos of him baying. And I'm like, no, he's actually the only dog I've ever had that has made a boar bay in that. Everything else gets bayed up in the worst stuff.
Yeah.
And so I guess I haven't even just because I'm still learning constantly, I haven't even concluded like my opinion is that yes, he's forcing that boar to turn around on his terms. Uh so something we talked about, Eric and I talked about on the last episode was the engaging aspect that we have. I know this isn't the typical way that you guys want a Leica or any dog to stop wild game, but my Leica, I'm firmly believe that he's grabbing the back end to force him to turn, then backing off and
Yeah.
bang. Is that something that you see there, or what are your thoughts on that in general?
I mean, I'm not. I I see that actually as a sign that you have a really brave dog that really wants it to you want to do the. And actually, the two I've had, they do that. They've also done that on bear. Well, the opposite aspect of that is actually when they do bake, and if I'm in the reeds or in the thickets, and they know that I have a hard time finding them, they actually also try to bite them a little bit, and to get them to engage and to get out. So I actually shot quite a few when they try to use their teeth a little bit just to get them a little bit more aggressive and show themselves, which is super beneficial.
Sometimes you get into a thicket, especially with wild boars, and you can just not get there. And I'm with Jonas there. Sometimes it feels like the dog knows that, oh, he's struggling right now, so I'm gonna trigger this boar to charge me, and then I'm gonna take the boar past my handler.
Yeah.
And as Jonas says, I think you almost shoot more wild boars that way than like on a like really strict bay
Yeah.
that's not moving at all.
Yeah, I've probably shot 4 of the 17 I've taken to him with him doing that. But I didn't know if it was intentional. I still don't know if it's intentional or if
No,
he's
it's
just kind of
intentional.
I mean, yeah, it's worked out perfectly that way because they charge, he runs back, perfect shot, right? But I want to touch on a comment that you made a while back. It's kind of, I guess, I wouldn't say stuck with me, but I'm curious about your reasoning behind it. But you said for every game animal, you can probably name a better hunting dog than a Leica for most game animals. But for wild boar, there probably is no better than a Leica. What would you say would you attribute that to?
Well, I guess I need to like uh, from the way that I hunt and the grounds that I have, that would be because if you have a good one, they're brave, and I think you need, you know, well, if you're going to shoot the really small boar, maybe you don't need, but if you want to shoot really big boar, you need to have a brave dog. You want to have a dog that cooperates with you. I think that's what Eric and I just commented upon. To be honest, I'm not going to throw out a number, but I've shot a fair amount of boar. I don't think I ever shot one. I can't, not one that comes to mind that, it's like on a bay that would be similar to shooting like it would bait out in the open and I got, within 30 meters and shot it. It's either, they always stop. For me, they always stop in the thickets or the reeds and you get really close.
Mhm.
Or you happen to go in on a bay and for some reason the boar made the decision to run and it runs past you, you know, to a situation like that. And I really enjoy that they are close. You always know where the boar is. I mean, as I said, in comparison to the finish, I never really know where they are. Sometimes maybe I shouldn't say that, but sometimes, I mean, obviously I shot boar. I didn't really see exactly where it was, but I knew it was only like a feet in front of the dog. And um, I don't know exactly what I meant by that, but if somebody asked me to pick a dog to hunt wild boar, I would say that Leica does the job the best I've seen.
Yeah, and we actually on the very short special episode we did when I basically went over the last 3 years of wild boar trials here. The
Yeah.
East Siberian is by far the highest performer on our wild boar trials.
I mean that's because what you have in addition to what you have on moose, you have that the quite high coefficient on how brave they are and how close they work.
Yep.
And I would say it's a big difference between how close you can get a Leica to work in comparison to other type moose type dogs.
Yeah, I think like I'm not gonna try to step on a Norwegian elk hounds hunters here, but like a lot of the Norwegian elk hounds you see on wild boars, they might be even further away than your Finnish spits.
Yeah.
Like,
But they have their benefits. I mean, if
oh
if
yeah,
you
definitely.
I don't know if you talked about this on any other episode, but I mean, if you go 5-10 years back, we had a lot of wild boar, and then we had a kind of a crash in the population, and then I would say there was a couple of years until probably up until this year that it was beneficial to have a gray one because they are, they take on older tracks and they follow a lot longer and you have a lot longer baying time. So even down south, I think it was beneficial to have those type of dogs. Now again, I'd see the advantage of having the Lycas, but yeah, they're different. And again, I'm not going to. It all depends on what you want and what you need.
Yeah, and also a lot on what type of ground you're hunting. Like currently, I'm here north of Örebro, and like we have wild boars, but they're so spread out, so they might like one group of wild boar might be shared by 8 or 10 different hunting teams, right?
Yeah.
And no one really knows where they bed down or where they take their night rests or day rest. And like I can definitely see like a Norwegian or even that's why I've been debating like hounds as well, like for wild boar,
Mhm.
when the wild boar population is so scarce, like
Yeah.
similar to when it comes to like bear hunting. Now, obviously, we have a lot less brown bears than wild boars even here, but like to have a dog that you can put on a track and you know that dog is gonna chase that until it jumps it. But I feel, as you're saying, Jonas, there that once you actually are on the boars, I feel the Laikas in general are hard to beat. And in Sweden, I think the East Siberian simpler are in head because of numbers wise. I can definitely see the West being as good, but we just haven't had that many good number dogs for a long time.
Yeah, again, I don't have a lot of experience. I've hunted with some of them, but I thought it was a fun thing to try. And I think they are different. They are a little bit different. But I was going to comment on one thing when you said, what you said about the population and the way you hunted the boar. Now, I think it's even more prominent what you're talking about when you hunt brown bear, because if you go back to, I mean, I had kind of the same journey learning to hunt bear 15 years ago, whatever. And wasn't really, the population was a lot more scarce, and the rules and regulations around what you could do was a lot more strict. And that's when you started having the plot hounds and the gray ones, because in a scarce population and where you needed a lot of following and so on, they were, superior, obviously. But now when you have, when you can use the cameras and you can bait them and so on, I see I mean, I wouldn't say there's another dog close. Well, the East Siberian Laika is good for that. If you can put them on a fresh trail, um, they stop them better than any other dog I've seen or tried. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of good individuals within all the breeds, but to generalize, I think. I don't know, Eric, if you looked. I haven't looked in a couple of years on the statistics for the bear tests, but
I think the Norwegian elk hound are in the top currently.
yeah,
If we're
okay.
talking about Junsele,
For example, yeah.
yeah. But I haven't checked. I have not actually checked the brown bear test the last 2-3 seasons. Maybe that's on free range. But there's so few of them every year because when it comes to brown bear trials here, we can start our dogs, basically all our dogs, from plot hounds to the Nordic hounds to Laikas to elk hounds on brown bear. But like those trials are very specific. Like you need to have a camera on the dog. You need to record yourself and like a timestamp that matches up with the dog and the camera. And then you need to submit the video fee, unedited, obviously, and then with like the GPS tracking data behind it as well. And then like judges are gonna rewatch it and then judge the dog from that. So basically, it's a big hazard, or not a big hazard, but it's a big work to do it. And as our brown bear season with the quotas, as we talked with Robin here from Norway about, it's so short. So like people, when you actually have a fresh brown bear track, you're not gonna like focusing on doing a trial. You're trying to just get the brown bear down.
No, I think the one that people use, at least the ones I talk to, is Junsele, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, as a reference point, at least.
Yeah. And Junsele, for our non-Swedish and probably Norwegian listeners as well, is basically a beer den, or like you have a wild boar pen that you can go to.
Mhm.
And Junsele is the only one in Sweden where they actually have brown bears, where you can actually trial your dogs on live brown bears. So basically, I think most people, not like most people, but like you can go up there and then you get a grade on your dog, and then you get on a list if your dog passed it or not.
Well, look, let's if you want to, let's dive deeper on what you're noticing with this West Siberian Leica.
I mean, obviously, when you look at the physically, she's lighter, she's more athletic, she's way faster. So you can tell only by letting her out. It's a big difference.
Mhm.
She's a bit funny, I would say. I normally, when I get a pup, I think it's really important to push them a little bit to make. To me, one of the most important traits in a good dog is overcoming fear or resistance. So you can tell if a dog is going to be good, in my opinion, when they're really small, because you can see how well they handle new situations and setbacks, and when they get overwhelmed, how long time does it take to recover and so on. And she's been she's been quite good, and she's definitely very alpha type of. She's the only dog I ever had that challenged my oldest East Siberian female, which is she's super alpha. And as late as yesterday, she was challenging her for some food. I mean, I never have a problem around the food. I never had a problem with, because she's not that keen, and most dogs just understand that, stay away, but she doesn't. When I let her out, I was very fortunate this year that we had a lot of apples um, in our backyard, and we had a lot of boar coming in each night. So I could go out every night and just let her out and play. To begin with, just, she was just trying to handle the scent, and then she followed it a little bit. And then I mean, she's 11 months now. I let her loose on boar maybe 10 times. And in contrast to what I always tell you to do, Adam, I actually let her go out with the finished bits as well, just to give, a little bit of, it gives them a little bit of confidence. But she's very, very interested, but comparison to the other dogs I had, she's not as active. She's still, processing what they are, what to do. She doesn't really bark that much. She just keeps, close to them, and if they run, that's really exciting. But she's not yet, what I can tell, try to stop them. So that's different. I mean, so she has some traits that I would say, you know, is encouraging. There's something there's there's something in her bravery and stuff like that that's good, but in the end, I'm not I'm not sure. She's a little bit behind what I would say that my experience with the East Siberian like at 11 months.
That, that's very interesting. I'm gonna jump in here before you say anything, Adam, because
Mhm.
I feel my West Siberian now, which is basically 4 weeks older than yours, is so similar in that, because my Sarah basically does everything when it comes to moose, and even on the few times I've had her on wild boar, but the baying part. Like, she's so fast and agile in the woods. She definitely want to chase after the scent, but that's just the last percent. For me, it's like for her to start baying.
Yeah.
I've actually got her so she was with a moose and a moose cow and a calf, uh, and she actually bayed them when they were in the open on like a clear cut. But as soon as they like moved into the woods, so she had to be closer to really see them, then she went silent, and then they took off, and then she chased them for a mile, or like 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers. So American mile, not a Swedish mile, which is 10 kilometers. So that's very interesting, because I feel definitely the same way. Like, everything is there for me now currently except the baying part.
Yeah, and that's actually the reason I don't know, like, well, then we have two observations. It's always difficult to tell how much is the breed, how much is the bloodline, how much is the individual. But that's one of the reason I let her, I let her out with another dog, was because I wanted to see if I could provoke her to, if she see another dog baying, I knew the boar was standing still, but still she was just, she was doing kind of a work. She was running around more like a shepherd, like,
Mhm.
uh, but not really engaging. But
Yep.
when they start running, she chased them, and she seemed to like the chase, like that part. Uh, but hopefully it's just maturing. I can't really tell. They usually said, when I got my first Leica, they told me, they're kind of late bloomers. You said don't really expect anything big until they're like 2 years. I think I shot my first boar by mistake. Well, I didn't shoot by mistake, but it was a mistake that she baited when she was like 6, 7 months. That's how eager she was, you know. Um, so that's a big difference.
Have you tried now? I'm assuming you might not even have that many capercaillies and black grouse where you hunt, because
No.
my West Siberian loves the birds. Like on Darren's trip here in September, she was 7 months old, and we were actually out hunting capercaillie and black grouse. And I took her out in the afternoon just to basically have a tired puppy. And Irina, who we were visiting, is a bird judge, and she basically did the third diploma on birds when she was 7 months old. But the first 3, 4 times she jumped the capercaillie, she didn't really bark them, and then by day 2 or 3, she was going full ham. So like, I'm not worried that mine at least is gonna start barking. I'm not sure if they just need a few close encounters to like process that they should bark, or where it comes from.
Well, I, that I don't know. I mean, I don't. She barks. I mean, she will bay the other dogs, and then she will, you know.
Oh yeah.
So
Or
she
the vacuum cleaner.
or the vacuum cleaner, anything like that. Uh, but I think it's one of the things you're saying. You got me thinking about what I've heard is that in Russia they do it a bit more. You know, they let the dog out and whatever. You know, if it finds something, it's very interested. That's what they keep hunting. You know, like
Yeah, you shoot what they bark at.
yeah. And the way they work, in my mind, is you know once you start, if you shoot for them, you know that's enough to get them really you know zoomed into that game or that game type. So I would say that you know what they have interest for as a pup, if you start shooting, that's what they're going to hunt. So that's another way of doing it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think
Thanks.
that's a kind of fairly common way of doing it in the States when it comes to, because in the States you only have West Siberian Laikas, as Adam has as well, and the few guys that actually hunt them on big game, which would be like Alex and Wayne and people like that, like a lot of them start maybe shooting squirrels when they're very young, and then they move over to raccoon, and then they're gonna end up just going for black bears when they're older.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, mine has been, I guess, for a couple of generations, he's kind of tree bred, I would say. But I've only messed with wild boar for him since a puppy, and he'll look at a squirrel up a tree or a raccoon up a tree, get interested, and as if I keep walking, he just walks, you know. But on the contrary to what you guys were saying, he started baying just like instantly, right? But on top of that, I don't know. I put like an obsessive amount of work into him because this is what I've been geared towards for quite a few years now. And I've taken his first 2 wild boar, which probably could have been sooner, but I didn't want to release him too early. And this is still in my mind a little bit too early. But at 10 months old, I put him on some fresh wild boar at a feeder, and he bayed up his first one, shot it. And then as we're messing with that one, he went bay up another one from the same group, and I shot that one. So he started like extremely early, and his baying was like incessant, just bark after bark after bark after bark. But there's a theory here. I don't know if that's the same over there, but there are a lot of people here that say that the late starters are actually end up being the better dogs in the long run. I'm not sure why that's a thought here, but it is fairly common for people to say that, especially some of the old timers.
I like my dogs to start. Yeah, I mean the lifespan of a dog is too short, anyways.
Yeah,
So the sooner they start barking, the better, if you ask me.
I agree with that personally, but yeah. So how's your hunting season been this year?
Not the best. I mean, I was a bit debating with myself if I was going to get this pup this year or not, because I knew that I had a lot of other things or a lot of other commitments this year. So I'm debating also with my wife if I hunt a lot or not. And I would say that maybe in comparison to the general public, but not in comparison to what I'm used to.
Right, right. So do you have any cool hunting stories
This year,
just in general or total? close calls, anything.
Well,
well, I'm known for
that sounds like quite a few.
weird shit just happens around me, and I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had Bo on here. He nearly got killed by a wild boar. I don't know if you listened to that episode, the guy in Australia. But yeah, he got cut really badly. I have my buddy David who introduced me into hog hunting. He took a bite on the heel. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting game we decide to pursue in some thick areas where we can't really see.
yep.
Yeah. No, but you get that. I mean, I guess this is a podcast for freaks, so I guess everybody can relate to
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, if you try to explain to people, what you do and why you do it, they think you're a lunatic. But
Yep.
I think just trying to get somebody to understand that if you hunt boar or bear in the reeds, in the thickets, you're so focused on getting the job done, you don't really, well, at least I don't really think too much about risks or consequences. It's sometimes afterwards you
Yeah.
might reflect if something happens and you're like, wow, that was a bit too close, wasn't it? But I would say personally, I've been closer to really bad things happening, not as much from, I mean, I obviously been charged by both boar and bear, but you know, in the reeds, I went through the ice a couple of times. Um, that's usually not very good.
Yeah.
No, it's tend to be very cold as well.
Yeah, if you get up, it's good. I mean, then you're okay. But um, so I had some close encounters like that. More that other things happen around, or you get stuck somewhere, or you fall down something, or you get stuck with your car, your phone's not working, or whatever.
So how did you get into brown bear hunting? Because if you were like 15 years ago, it wasn't really that big as it is now.
Um, no, but I had. Do you know Rasmus Nyman? Uh,
Or know of.
yeah, I mean, we were kind of early on breeding Laikas for boar, I guess. And Tyson, which was his first, was an extremely good bear dog, and we started talking about that. And I had friends up in Hälsingland who had really good grounds, and the first couple of years, to be honest, it was more like therapy, because you went out, you couldn't, you went, I mean, you got up really early in the morning, you drove an insane amount of car, out in nowhere. You were talking to blue bear, the Thailand people picking
Yeah, the picking berries.
berries. And I mean, if I was out, maybe I was out 10 days in a season, maybe you would encounter bear, one or two times
Yep.
in 10 days. And the Lycas, as I was saying, I mean, they're not really made for tracking really old. I don't know. I'd say if the track was more than an hour or 2 hours, they wouldn't engage. So, but I was early on. I was trying. And I had a dog that was really good. I mean, I did all the trials you could do with it. I went to Canada and hunted black bear, which, I mean, anytime I do that for any dog I wanted to hunt bear. I'd go to Canada or the US and hunt black bear, because it's such a good stepping stone for a young dog. The amount of bear you have, Adam, is can't really compare. And there's so much. Maybe I'll get somebody upset, but they're so much easier to hunt than the brown bear. I mean, the way that they tree, or you don't have to, well, it's a lot. It's a good stepping stone, let's just call it that.
So when you're on that topic, you want to talk a bit about the Canada trip?
Sure. So Yeah, I went once when the one I have now, the East Siberian, when she was a pup, or she was like 2 maybe. We went to British Columbia, and it was really interesting. I think I was there for like 10 days. The outfitter that we used had never hunted with dogs before, so he was really cool that he wanted to learn something new, but it took us about 5, 6 days. In the beginning, I think he thought that we were really weird, that, like, we'd see bear, we let the dogs out, the bear run away. And that was like an eye opener for me, that before I went to Canada, I mean, I've spent years in the woods, in the Swedish woods, but you can't compare that to the Canadian not cultivated forest where you can't really go in.
Yep.
The way I usually explain it, like in Sweden, all the forest is cultivated. It's
Yep.
If you go to Canada, the trees, there's about 3 times as much trees per square meter, or whatever you want to call it, and every other tree is broken, and it hasn't, it's not at the bottom, it's, at the middle, so you have to climb. So it was really difficult at first to understand how we could hunt the bear. It wasn't until after like 5 days, when we hadn't shot a bear, but we had, they'd work them every day, like 2, 3 different. We'd say, like, we have to try something else. So we went to an area that had much better road network, and there was a lot more oil and gas pipelines and stuff like that. So it was more like blocks, like,
Yep.
and then finally, I think we shot, like, we had 8 tickets. I think we shot 7 bears in 2 days or something like that. Just because once you could start following the bear, it was so much easier, obviously. But it was a great experience. Yeah,
Did you guys use multiple dogs on that trip, or would you take one dog at a time?
we took one at a time.
So when you went over to British Columbia, did you brought your own Leica? Did you have another Leica with you as well, or like was it only Leicas that you brought over?
We brought 2 from the same litter.
Okay.
I don't know how it works in different states, but in British Columbia, you could only have 2 tickets per person. So we
Yep.
brought 2 friends as well. So we had 8 tickets for
Yep.
2 dogs. And we ended up using 7 of those.
Yeah. It's basically different from state to state when it comes to basically all game. I think in both America and the Canada. I think for black bears like Tennessee, it's 1 per year. Same with Virginia. West Virginia was 2, and all the different states has different regulations.
I was reading, Adam, I think you have a friend, he wrote me, and he had like 21 or 26 bears this season. I don't know how that works, but.
That's
It was.
I think that was Alex, huh, Eric?
I think Wayne
Wayne,
had.
I think it was Wayne, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Wayne treed 29, but
Yep.
he only shot 1.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can tree and
Free.
tree and free, yeah. That's the phrase they use, tree and free, just as a training method, and
Catch and release.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
Catch and
much.
release.
So yeah, he
Okay.
hasn't killed that many.
Yeah, and what a lot of not only Leica hunters, but like what hound people do is you basically bring a designated shooter for a day.
Okay. Yeah.
Because basically as a dog handler, you never want to use your own ticket, right? Because then legally you can't keep hunting your dogs. Then someone else has to
Oh, is
like
that
be
how
the
it
main.
works?
Yeah, then someone else has to be like the main handler of the dogs. At least in the East states. So basically they just bring. So on my American trip, I was like the designated shooter the first day in Tennessee. I got my bear, and then another guy was like a designated shooter for day 2. And then we repeated that in Virginia. So then I was designated shooter until I harvest my bear in Virginia, and then we brought other guys with us. So that's basically how they do it to keep hunting their dogs. Similar that you brought 2 friends with you to have extra tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a black bear boom down here in Louisiana. Have quite a few, and we're not even able to hunt them. So
Yeah,
Okay.
and if it feels like it's the same thing over there as here, like it's gonna be a few years before Fish and Game realized, oh shit, we have a problem on our hands.
Yeah. Yeah, just a matter of time, man. Well, look, Jonas, I don't want to take all your time. We appreciate you coming. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I didn't want to add anything. It's
I hear you. Yeah, nah, we appreciate your time greatly.
But a
it was
quick,
nice talking to you, anyways.
I'm gonna throw a quick question to end it off. Like, do you see a reason to not use a Spitz type of breed dog when it comes to wild boar?
Well, it depends on what what you're
well, for
doing. I
you,
mean,
for yourself, like, or are you always gonna have a Leica in your like pack as
yeah,
long as you're hunting?
yeah, I probably will. And I mean, as I was saying in the beginning of this conversation, probably more over time because I started out doing driven. Then you can always argue if it's right to use a Leica, but if you're going to do it by yourself or with just a few friends, there's nothing like it, I would say. Especially hunting also in the lower half of Sweden.
Mhm.
I would say for me it's a perfect dog.
Yeah. Well, I relate.
But everyone,
I think my ground seems similar, more similar to yours than the opposite. I have a lot of game in a close proximity, so yeah, like is gonna be for me, man.
I also think we need to make an honorable mention, right? Because your oldest female, right, Jonas, was the top performer female on wild boar for a few years.
well, she happened to have an 86 back in the days when 86 was really good number.
But I mean, 86 is still a very good number for wild boar these days.
Yeah. No, but we it was early on. Everything evolves, and dogs are better now, and I think also the judges are maybe they're not as. Back in the days, 86 was good. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, I'm happy with that. If we can conclude on that, we really
Yeah.
appreciate you
Thank you very
coming
much
on.
for having me, guys.
Thank you, man. You have a great night.
You too.
We appreciate your
Enjoy.
knowledge.